There we go. Good morning, everybody. Hello, and welcome to our stock market update, where we're always covering what you need to know as we approach the trading day in 15 minutes or less. It is Thursday, September 16th, and let's look at the charts. Now, yesterday, we actually had a decent update. The NASDAQ snapped a 5-day losing streak. So, 5 days straight. Yesterday opened higher. It looked like we might see that continuation to the downside yesterday, but a nice close up 0.8%. The Dow also coming off of these recent lows, closing higher. It was the S&P that led the way yesterday, up 0.9%. Really looking pretty strong for most of the day, opening slightly higher, not making new lows here in this recent move lower, and closing up 0.9%. So pretty decent day yesterday. Now looking at futures overnight, we actually had a pretty steady decline, not a big drop, but just a gradual decline throughout most of the overnight session. And then we had a big jump here that brought us back to break even. So we were looking at a lower start. Why the jump? Why this move here? Well, it was retail sales. Let's go ahead and look at the economic calendar. There are really two reports that traders were keeping an eye on this morning, but core retail sales was the biggie, at least based on the result. Core retail sales for August actually had a surprise increase. So analysts expected a 0.1% drop in core retail sales, and that actually was definitely off because August retail sales came in at 1.8% higher. So big change there. We see that the core retail sales is the total value of sales at the retail level, excluding automobiles. So nice little jump here. If we take a look at retail sales also a big beat or win here. The expectation was minus 0.7%, and instead retail sales came in at 0.7%. So if we look at the numbers here, this is the best retail sales result since April. Let's go back to core retail sales. Yeah, the core retail sales, same thing. The best numbers since April. So pretty strong month for retail, and that comes as a bit of a surprise. So that's a positive for the markets. We also had unemployment claims. Unemployment claims last week came in at 312,000 claims for the prior week. That was a pandemic low going back to March of 2020. This week it crept higher. The actual is 332,000 Americans filing for unemployment last week. That's a little bit higher than expected, with the expectation being 325,000. So this creeping higher, it's I wouldn't say that this is what traders are really focused on. This is a weekly report, and it can fluctuate. Pre-pandemic, this report it could move the market, but really that jobs report was always the key. What traders really focused on since the pandemic. People have been watching unemployment claims a lot closer, just because it's a weekly number to get a feel for the employment and how COVID is affecting employment. So this has taken on a little more weight, but I would say that this reaction here is really to this surprise in retail sales, just coming out of nowhere, really. Now, if we look back at the E-mini S&P, we see that this jump and the rally since has erased the lows, or the small losses that we had going into the open before the report, but we're still down a little bit for the session. I mean, not even a full 1/10%. So trying to get back to break even, erasing most of the losses, I would say. Not all of the losses yet. The Dow did turn positive, so Dow Futures getting a little more of a boost, up just 29 points, which is nothing for the Dow, but still taking the Dow from negative territory looking at a lower open to slightly positive. The Nasdaq not as affected as much. Actually, we did see a little bit of a jump here, but we see that not the same enthusiasm over retail sales. That retail sales number is having more of an impact on the S&P and the Dow, and that will likely continue to be the case when U.S. markets open. So E-mini S&P, mini Dow coming off session lows. Nasdaq not as excited about those numbers, and we see that we're dipping just a little bit. So looks like a mixed start for futures. If this continues, Dow up a little bit, S&P down a little bit, Nasdaq down a little bit more, and we'll see if this holds up as we approach the U.S. Open. Now, let's take a look at some movers here. Let's look at mRNA. Now, there's been a lot of controversy over the booster shot, and actually, this was up a little bit more, earlier, and now it looks like it's flat. So it looks like traders are just not too excited about this or the impact of it on the stock. Let me go to a daily chart. Let's reset it. There we go. So pretty much flat pre-market, and that did change. Now, there's been a lot of controversy for the need of booster shots, whether they're important, whether there's proof to say that it's needed, and also whether we should be getting boosters while there's still people around the world who are not vaccinated. So that's been up for debate, even though the White House has encouraged it, and it sounds like it's definitely something that's being suggested. Moderna, they provided some data claiming that breakthrough cases were far less frequent. So they released more data that actually supported boosters. And the government advisors will be meeting Friday to debate the need for boosters, but some more data coming out. So far, it's been kind of inconclusive, but it looks like more and more data is pointing to the benefit of boosters and Moderna contributing to that, but not making a whole lot of movement pre-market, although it was up a little bit more earlier. Now, some big news this week. Let's look at Wynn here. Wynn and some of these casino stocks that have exposure in Macao have just been hammered over the last couple of days. And Wynn taking another beating yesterday, down a little bit more today. So pre-market down 3%. LVS is another one. Las Vegas Sands. Las Vegas Sands had a pretty good comeback yesterday, opening lower and then reversing course. Not quite getting positive based on the previous day's close, but a pretty good reversal there. Down another 2.4% pre-market. Now, full disclosure, Marcus and I, we do have a position in this stock, and we actually sold some 37 puts. So we'll see if we get assigned at the end of the week on those 37s. But this Macao move is making for an interesting scenario for these stocks. And JP Morgan, they actually downgraded both Wynn and Las Vegas Sands from neutral to overweight because of Macao's decision to tighten regulations in the gaming industry and the uncertainty around this, what it will actually mean. Now, the interesting thing is, so a Bloomberg index that tracks casino operators and 6 of the Macao operators, it was down 23% yesterday, the biggest one-day fall on record. And I didn't know this, but Macao's casinos rake in around $37 billion in annual revenue. And that's roughly 5 times more than the Vegas Strip. So I've never been there. Of course, I've been to Vegas for sure, but 5 times more revenue. That just puts, how big that gaming industry is into perspective, and some regulations and, restrictions there, and how that could impact the stock. Las Vegas Sands actually got out of Vegas, and so they have full exposure there. We'll see where this ends up. But there's a 45-day period where regulators are looking at, making some decisions and changes there to supposedly improve the gaming industry, but that might not be a positive thing for these stocks, and that's why they're taking a bit of a beating. Now, on a positive note, let's look at CELH. Full disclosure, this is another stock that Marcus and I have exposure in. Actually, we bought options on this with a Power X signal, and they are up 2.3% pre-market. Pretty nice run up here. And the reason why, Jeffries initiated its coverage of the company with a buy rating, saying Celsius is a disruptive brand in the energy drink category. So Celsius looking pretty good pre-market. Looks like we might hit our second target. We had a earlier target hit on this move, and liking that pre-market action, especially considering I have some exposure to this one. It really was a day of analyst upgrades and downgrades, really. Let's look at Beyond Meat. So Wynn in Las Vegas Sands downgraded, Celsius Holdings upgraded, Beyond Meat down almost 3% pre-market. This takes where are we at? Yeah, so this takes Beyond down to lows not seen since May. So Beyond Meat just kind of drifting lower, for months now. And they had an analyst downgrade. Piper Sandler downgraded the stock to overweight, saying that retail momentum lags consensus expectations. Another analyst mover, let's look at CAR. Avis Budget, they're up over 2% pre-market. They were actually upgraded to a buy rating by Bank of America. Bank of America, the rental car industry has been a mess, right? They had to sell a lot of their fleet because of the pandemic when nobody was renting cars and traveling. And then they were scrambling to find cars to rent. And because of that, the low supply, high demand, they're charging high prices for these rentals, and that's actually a good thing for the company. Bank of America believes that higher revenue per day because of the ongoing demand and lower inventory will continue into 2022. So what at first looked like a nightmare situation has actually turned into a profitable one because people want to rent their cars and the car rental companies can charge more because there isn't that much inventory to be renting out. All right, let's look at another one. Cisco. Cisco up over 1%, so not a huge move, but nice little jump pre-market. They had their Investors Day, and after Investors Day, Credit Suisse upgraded the stock to outperform after the event. So little jump there for Cisco, and another analyst making a decision there. Let's take a look at some of these Chinese stocks. We've talked about the increased regulations and restrictions in China and just how that's really hurting some of these Chinese stocks that are listed on U.S. exchanges, BABA being one of them, down about 2% pre-market. So BABA looking at potentially trading at lows not seen since August of 2019. So down a little bit more as the move lower continues. Let's look at JD. JD is also down. Is this? Yeah, JD.com. Okay. So down almost 2% pre-market. JD, taking the same hit, but finding some stability and moving sideways and not having the same move lower that BABA had, but down about 2% as well. Pinduoduo, another one, sliding and down about 1.5% here. So Chinese stocks taking a little bit of a hit as we head into the open. Well, there's some movers for you. It looks like futures still are mixed with the Dow slightly higher. That's going to do it for today's stock market update. I'm going to head over so we can trade with our mastermind group. If you like these videos, please give it a thumbs up. I'll be here tomorrow with another stock market update. And until then, happy trading, everybody.